More than 70% of automatic drivers are quietly damaging their cars, and most have no idea they're doing it. These aren't dramatic mistakes. They're subtle, everyday habits that creep in unnoticed. Letting the fuel run low, resting a hand where it shouldn't be, shifting at the wrong time. Each one chips away at the systems that keep your car smooth, reliable, and safe. And while they might seem harmless now, the cost later can be brutal. In this breakdown, we're exposing 12 things you should never do in an automatic car, plus one bonus tip that could save you thousands. It might feel like a minor inconvenience, but driving on low fuel is one of the fastest ways to shorten the life of your car's fuel system. In most modern vehicles, the fuel pump is located inside the fuel tank and relies on the gasoline itself for cooling and lubrication. When the level drops below 1/4 of a tank, the pump is no longer fully submerged, which increases the risk of it overheating. Repeated overheating gradually causes the pump to wear out faster than intended, and replacing a damaged pump can cost several $100s or more depending on your vehicle. But there's more. Over time, the bottom of every fuel tank collects sediment, rust particles, and other debris. This buildup settles at the base, where it typically causes no harm, until you run your tank low. That's when the fuel pump begins to pull in fuel from this contaminated layer. This material can clog the fuel filter, damage injectors, and disrupt the overall fuel flow. The result? Poor acceleration, reduced fuel efficiency, engine misfires, and even stalling. Worse yet, running out of fuel completely introduces air into the fuel system. When air enters the fuel lines, it creates pressure irregularities, forcing the pump to work harder just to re-establish flow. That added stress can severely reduce the pump's lifespan and may even require priming or full system flushing. Low fuel levels can also cause your engine control unit to overcompensate, altering fuel-air ratios in a way that affects emissions, performance, and long-term engine health. What seems like a small habit, pushing for that next station, could end up triggering a chain of costly consequences. The solution is simple and effective. Refuel before your tank falls below 1/4 full. This easy habit protects vital components, keeps your engine performing smoothly, and helps avoid avoidable repairs or roadside emergencies. And while it may sound fuel efficient, coasting in neutral is not only a bad habit, it's one that risks both your transmission and your safety. In an automatic car, the transmission depends on power from the engine to keep its internal hydraulic and lubrication systems functioning correctly. When you coast in neutral, the engine disconnects from the drivetrain, but the wheels continue to spin internal gears. Without engine power, fluid pressure drops, and critical components like clutch packs and bearings begin to operate under poor lubrication conditions. This internal friction accelerates wear, especially on surfaces designed to move smoothly under high-pressure lubrication. Over time, this can lead to internal degradation, shifting delays, and even premature transmission failure, something that could cost several $1,000s to fix. Safety-wise, neutral coasting robs you of engine braking, a feature that uses engine resistance to slow your car without relying entirely on the brake system. On downhill roads, this absence forces your brake pads to take on the entire load, leading to faster wear, excessive heat, and increased risk of brake fade or failure. And if you suddenly need to accelerate to avoid an obstacle or merge quickly, shifting from neutral back into drive takes time. That momentary delay could be the difference between safely reacting and being part of a collision. Many drivers still believe that neutral coasting saves fuel. That was true for older carbureted engines, but not for modern fuel-injected vehicles. Today's engines automatically reduce fuel delivery when you let off the accelerator while still in gear. In neutral, however, the engine must keep idling, using fuel to stay running. So while the logic behind neutral coasting might seem sound, the reality is it causes more harm than good. The better option is simple. Stay in drive, release the accelerator gently, and let the car's design do its job, keeping you safer while preserving key mechanical systems. It might feel like a thrill to punch the accelerator from a complete stop, but launching an automatic car can be one of the quickest ways to ruin your drivetrain. Unlike in a manual car, where you have control over how the clutch engages, Automatics rely on a torque converter to manage power delivery. When you suddenly floor the gas pedal, it sends a shock wave of torque through the system, forcing the converter and internal clutches to absorb that rapid load all at once. This results in immediate heat buildup, especially in the transmission fluid. That fluid is designed to cool and lubricate the system. But when overheated repeatedly, it breaks down faster. Once degraded, it loses the ability to protect internal gears, leading to metal-on-metal contact. Over time, this can cause gear slippage, harsh shifting, and even full transmission failure. The drivetrain doesn't fare much better. Hard launches stress the drive shaft, axles, and differential, parts that were never built for constant shock loading. Repeated strain can lead to cracked axles, worn differential gears, or broken universal joints. Each of these issues can cost thousands of dollars to fix and usually involve extensive labor. Even your tires suffer. Launching from a stop sends excess torque to the drive wheels, especially in front-wheel drive setups. That leads to uneven tread wear, reduced grip, and shorter tire life. Performance suffers, and you'll be visiting the tire shop more often than necessary. It's also worth noting that frequent hard launches confuse your engine and transmission control systems. The sensors attempt to adapt, sometimes compromising smoother performance elsewhere. The alternative is clear: ease into acceleration. Let power build gradually from a stop, allowing the torque converter and transmission to engage naturally. This simple habit keeps your car running smoothly, extends component life, and reduces repair costs. Not to mention, it makes your driving feel more composed and confident. Jumping into your car and driving off immediately, especially in cold weather, might seem harmless, but it's a habit that quietly harms your engine and transmission over time. When an engine is cold, the oil inside is thicker and hasn't fully circulated through all internal components. This means critical parts like the pistons, camshaft, and valve train are moving without full lubrication. The friction generated during these early moments accelerates long-term wear and shortens the life of your engine. For automatic transmissions, the consequences are even more pronounced. Transmission fluid, like engine oil, thickens in cold conditions. Until it reaches operating temperature, it doesn't flow efficiently. As a result, early gear shifts may be delayed, rough, or noisy. These awkward transitions put stress on the clutch packs and valve body inside the transmission. Over time, that stress degrades the fluid's quality, leading to poor lubrication and overheating, both major contributors to transmission failure. There's also the matter of fuel economy and emissions. Cold engines rely on a richer air-fuel mixture to compensate for lower combustion efficiency. That means you burn more fuel and release more pollutants until the engine warms up. Driving aggressively while the engine is still cold forces it to work harder in this inefficient state, compounding wear and wasting fuel. Delicate parts like the head gasket and aluminum engine block are also more vulnerable during cold operation. Rapid temperature changes and high loads can create microfractures or leaks, especially if you make a habit of pushing the car too soon after starting. The better approach is to let the car idle for about 30 seconds to 1 minute, giving fluids a chance to circulate. Then ease into driving, avoiding aggressive acceleration until the engine temperature stabilizes. It's a small delay that can add years of life to your powertrain. It might feel harmless to leave your car in drive while waiting, but doing so puts unnecessary strain on both your transmission and brake system. When the gear is engaged and your foot is on the brake, your engine continues to send torque through the transmission, even if your wheels aren't turning. That internal pressure forces moving components to stay active while the vehicle is stationary, creating unnecessary heat buildup inside the gearbox. Over time, this leads to fluid degradation. Transmission fluid begins to lose its cooling and lubricating effectiveness under prolonged heat exposure. As the fluid breaks down, internal parts such as clutches, planetary gears, and valve components are left vulnerable to metal-on-metal contact. That friction accelerates wear, increases operating temperature, and eventually leads to performance issues like gear slippage or delayed engagement. Your braking system is affected too. Holding your foot on the brake pedal for extended periods increases brake pad contact and pressure. In stop-and-go traffic or long idles, this generates additional heat and shortens the lifespan of brake components. The result? More frequent brake replacements and a greater risk of rotor warping or brake fade, especially in older vehicles. There's also a real safety risk. If your foot slips off the brake while the car is in drive, even for a moment, the vehicle can lurch forward unexpectedly. This is particularly dangerous in areas with heavy pedestrian activity, tight parking spaces, or while waiting in traffic near other vehicles. A more mechanical issue can occur in high traffic conditions where repeated transitions between brake pressure and idle torque cause unnecessary strain on the transmission mount and engine mounts over time. This leads to vibrations, rattling, or more serious mounting failures. To avoid all of this, the best practice is simple. If you expect to remain stopped for more than 10 seconds, shift into neutral or park and engage the parking brake. It eases stress on both the transmission and the brake system while increasing overall driving safety. Resting your hand on the gear selector may seem like second nature, but it's a habit that can lead to mechanical issues most drivers never see coming. In automatic vehicles, the gear lever is connected, either mechanically or electronically, to the transmission's internal shift components. It might appear sturdy, but it's not designed to handle continuous pressure from your hand. Even light, consistent contact applies force to internal linkages or electronic sensors. Over time, that pressure can cause minor misalignments or wear on the shift linkage. This results in difficulty selecting gears, slack in the shifter movement, or poor gear engagement. In electronically controlled transmissions, sensor errors can lead to irregular shifting or even dashboard warning lights due to feedback inconsistencies. More seriously, repeated pressure on the selector can cause damage to the detent mechanism, the part that locks the shifter into place for each gear mode. When worn, it can cause the shifter to slip out of position or lead to imprecise gear selection. In rare cases, this may prevent the transmission from fully engaging a gear, potentially causing rolling or loss of power. Beyond the mechanical issues, there's a safety concern. Resting your hand on the gear stick often results in driving with one hand on the wheel, reducing control in an emergency situation. Two hands on the wheel allow quicker steering inputs and better lane discipline, especially in sudden braking or evasive maneuvers. There's also a posture factor. Keeping one hand on the shifter throws off your natural body alignment while driving. That imbalance can reduce reaction time, contribute to driver fatigue, or lead to subtle strain in your shoulder or wrist over long distances. The fix is easy. Only touch the shifter when changing gear modes. Once you're in drive or reverse, keep both hands on the wheel or rest your free hand comfortably elsewhere. This protects sensitive components and improves both control and safety every time you drive. Changing gears while your car is still moving might seem efficient, but it's one of the most damaging habits you can have with an automatic transmission. Whether you're shifting from drive to reverse, reverse to drive, or trying to slide into park before a full stop, these transitions put tremendous stress on internal components designed for smooth, deliberate engagement. Automatic transmissions use clutch packs, planetary gears, and fluid-driven systems that rely on synchronized movement. When you change modes while the vehicle is still rolling, those parts are forced to engage under resistance. That sudden clash between your car's momentum and the mechanical command results in jarring internal impacts. Repeating this habit wears down the friction plates and stresses the torque converter, which can eventually lead to slipping, hesitation, or gear engagement failure. The parking pawl is another vulnerable component. It's a small metal pin inside the transmission that locks the gearbox when in park. If engaged while the car is still in motion, the pawl can shear off or jam. This damage isn't just inconvenient, it can leave your car unable to stay parked, especially on inclines. Replacing or realigning the pawl is labor-intensive and expensive. Another issue lies in the fluid system. Sudden gear changes disrupt hydraulic pressure and interrupt fluid circulation at the worst possible time. That disruption leads to overheating, reduced lubrication, and accelerated wear of internal seals and valves. Even beyond the mechanics, quick mode changes reduce driver control. Shifting into reverse while rolling forward, even at low speed, can cause the drive wheels to momentarily lock, resulting in skidding or unexpected movement. The fix is simple. Come to a full stop before changing gears. Wait for the car to settle completely, then shift into the desired mode. This small habit preserves internal components, maintains consistent fluid pressure, and keeps your shifts clean and predictable. Still, even when the car is parked properly, failing to engage one overlooked safety system can bring its own long-term damage. It might not seem important on flat ground, but skipping the emergency brake when parking can quietly damage your automatic transmission over time. In daily driving, most people rely solely on the park setting to secure their vehicle. But this setting engages a single piece of hardware, the parking pawl, to hold the entire car's weight in place. The pawl is a metal pin that locks into a notched gear, preventing wheel rotation. While effective, it's not built to hold back the full load of a car indefinitely, especially on slopes or uneven surfaces. When you don't use the emergency brake, all that weight rests directly on the pawl. Over time, this creates stress fatigue and increases the risk of it breaking or becoming misaligned. If the pawl fails, the car could begin to roll, even though the gear selector is still in park. That failure doesn't just risk property damage or injury, it also requires major repair, as the transmission housing must often be disassembled to access and replace the broken part. Engaging the emergency brake reduces this strain significantly. It locks the rear wheels using a cable-driven or electronic system, mechanically securing the car independently of the transmission. This redundancy protects the pawl and helps preserve your transmission's integrity over time. From a safety standpoint, the emergency brake also prevents movement if your car is bumped while parked, say in a tight parking space or on a hill. It keeps your vehicle steady even if the transmission shifts slightly or the pawl slips. To apply it correctly, bring the vehicle to a full stop, press the brake pedal, engage the emergency brake first, then shift into park. This order ensures that the vehicle is held by the brake, not the pawl, before locking the transmission. Though it may seem like a small detail, consistently using the emergency brake can extend transmission life and prevent thousands in avoidable repair costs. Next, let's talk about a related myth, using neutral in traffic. Many think it reduces wear. It doesn't. Leaving your car in neutral while stopped in traffic may seem like a way to reduce strain, but in reality, it compromises control, safety, and mechanical durability. Neutral disengages the engine from the wheels, which might sound like a way to let the car rest. But the consequences can outweigh the benefits, especially in the stop-and-go conditions most drivers face daily. When you're in neutral, you remove the engine's ability to provide forward resistance. In gear, a small amount of engine braking helps hold the car in place. Without it, your brakes are forced to do all the work, especially on inclines or uneven roads. Over time, this increases brake pad wear and can overheat the system, reducing braking performance and increasing service costs. There's also the issue of responsiveness. In an emergency, quick movement matters. If a vehicle swerves toward you or traffic starts to shift suddenly, the time it takes to move from neutral into drive, especially in older or slower reacting transmissions, can be a dangerous delay. That split-second pause could be enough to prevent a quick escape from danger. Frequent transitions between neutral and drive, common in traffic, also put added wear on the shift linkage, torque converter, and hydraulic system. Every time you re-engage drive, the transmission must manage pressure changes, gear meshing, and fluid flow, processes that become more stressful with repetition. Additionally, leaving the car in neutral can encourage unsafe habits. Some drivers take their foot off the brake entirely, assuming the car is secure. But on a slope, or when lightly nudged, the vehicle can roll, posing a risk to pedestrians or nearby vehicles. The safer and smarter approach is to remain in drive and keep your foot on the brake during normal stops. If you expect to wait longer, such as at a railroad crossing or drive-through, shift into park and apply the emergency brake. It's a habit that protects both your car and the people around it. Driving through deep water might seem unavoidable during heavy rains or floods, but allowing water into your transmission can lead to catastrophic and irreversible damage. Automatic transmissions are sealed systems, but they aren't completely watertight, especially under pressure. Vents are built into the casing to allow for heat expansion, and these vents can allow water in when submerged. Once even a small amount of water enters the system, it begins to mix with the transmission fluid, changing its chemical composition immediately. Transmission fluid is engineered to cool, lubricate, and maintain hydraulic pressure. When contaminated with water, it loses viscosity, becomes foamy or milky in appearance, and loses its lubricating properties. This results in increased friction inside the transmission, causing critical components like gears, clutch packs, and valve bodies to wear down rapidly. In many cases, water exposure doesn't just degrade the fluid, it triggers corrosion in metal parts, rust on internal gears, and electrical issues in modern electronically controlled transmissions. What makes water damage particularly destructive is that it often goes unnoticed until symptoms appear: slipping gears, delayed engagement, overheating, or complete failure. At that point, repairs usually involve a full rebuild or replacement, which can cost several $1,000s. Flooding isn't the only danger. Driving through puddles that reach transmission height or leaving your car in standing water for long periods can allow moisture to creep in gradually. In either case, the result is the same: compromised fluid, internal damage, and eventual failure. If you suspect water has entered your transmission, don't drive the vehicle. Have it towed and inspected immediately by a professional. Early intervention may allow for a fluid flush before deeper damage sets in. To avoid this entirely, never drive through water high enough to reach your engine bay or transmission casing. Even if it seems shallow, the risk isn't worth it. But while water intrusion is rare, one everyday habit continues to silently wear down braking systems and confuse onboard sensors, and that's driving with both feet. Using both feet to drive an automatic car might feel like you're more in control, but in reality, it creates serious mechanical and safety issues. Automatic transmissions are designed for one-foot operation. When one foot controls the gas and the other controls the brake, you increase the likelihood of applying both pedals at the same time, even slightly. This overlap sends mixed signals to your vehicle's control systems and puts stress on key components. Modern cars are equipped with sensitive electronic sensors that interpret throttle and brake inputs. If the system detects acceleration and braking simultaneously, it can engage fail-safe modes, limit power delivery, or trigger warning lights. In extreme cases, it can confuse the transmission's shift logic, causing gear hesitation or even failure to shift at all. There's also a significant risk of brake wear. Keeping your foot resting lightly on the brake pedal, even unconsciously, can cause constant contact between the brake pads and rotors. This generates excess heat, reduces braking efficiency, and leads to premature wear on the entire braking system. Over time, the pads, rotors, and calipers will all need replacing far sooner than normal. From a safety standpoint, driving with both feet can delay your response in emergencies. In high-stress moments, both feet may act simultaneously, one pressing the gas, the other the brake, leading to hesitation or confusion rather than precise control. Many unintended acceleration incidents have been traced back to this habit. One-foot driving eliminates these risks. It ensures that you fully lift off the accelerator before applying the brakes, creating a natural transition that keeps your braking system cooler and your transmission working properly. It also reinforces proper muscle memory, which is especially important in emergency maneuvers. To drive safely and maintain mechanical harmony, use your right foot exclusively for both gas and brake pedals. It's the design intent for automatic vehicles, and it protects both your control as a driver and your car's long-term reliability. Still, there's one more hidden habit that goes unnoticed until damage is already done, and it starts right at the fuel pump. Overfilling your fuel tank after the nozzle clicks off might seem like a way to squeeze a bit more mileage from your fill-up, but it actually risks damaging a key emission system and may even affect transmission performance indirectly. When the tank is full, the pump is designed to shut off automatically to prevent overflow. Forcing more fuel in after this point sends excess gasoline into the evaporative emission system, also known as the EVAP system. The EVAP system is responsible for capturing and storing fuel vapors, preventing them from escaping into the atmosphere. It uses components like the charcoal canister, purge valve, and vent lines to maintain vapor integrity. When liquid fuel enters this system, something it was never designed to handle. It saturates the charcoal canister and blocks the vent lines. This leads to erratic fuel vapor flow, pressure imbalances, and in many cases, triggers the check engine light. But the chain reaction doesn't stop there. When the engine control unit receives inconsistent readings from the evap system, it may adjust fuel trims or ignition timing to compensate, which impacts engine smoothness. On some vehicles, especially those with tightly integrated powertrain control modules, this fluctuation can create drivability issues that mimic early transmission trouble, like rough shifts or power surges. Long-term overfilling can lead to charcoal debris breaking off inside the evap lines, contaminating valves and clogging passages. Cleaning or replacing these parts is expensive and time-consuming. From a safety perspective, overfilled fuel can leak in hot weather or slosh into overflow vents while driving, creating fire hazards and increasing emissions. The small amount of extra fuel gained by topping off the tank isn't worth the long-term risk. To avoid these problems, always stop pumping when the nozzle clicks off. Letting it run just a little further may feel like a win at the pump, but it comes at a cost under the hood. Taking this simple precaution can prevent multiple system failures, reduce repair bills, and help your automatic car run as smoothly as it was designed to. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.